Morphin time! Tyrannosaurus! Mastodon! Dragonzord!
Bitches!
Okay, Tina, if I were to say Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger to you, what do you think that is?
People in bodysuits?
Okay, you actually know a little Japanese, so that's not fair. Dan, do you know what that is?
I'm pretty sure that's the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
What would make you think that?
The fact mainly Wikipedia.
You said gold.
Mainly because we have a bunch of Megazords in front of your face.
Well, I mean, context
Like,
clues.
literally Dragonzord sticking his tail in your mouth. Okay.
You said Go Ranger, which makes me think Go Ranger, which is Go Ranger.
Right, and
Go
where
Rangers.
are those guys always going?
Power Rangers was something I felt I was too old to watch, but I kind of did go back and watch a few.
We watched it. It came on at the same time as The Tick on Fox.
It did.
I've always been a big fan of giant robots. The show was kind of hokey.
Says
But-
the guy who likes Transformers.
Hey, Transformers
easy.
was completely well plotted out.
Giant robots are dumb, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Giant
Get
robots.
out of my... Actually, kill yourself.
That's it. That's it. We're
It seemed very
dissolving the
like,
show.
Voltron-esque to
Okay,
me.
so all of this had an origin in Japan. We didn't know about Power Rangers until 1993 here. But everything began in Japan in 1975 with what I said earlier with the Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. That was a series that introduced these characters that they changed into outfits.
They morphed.
Spandex outfits, and they fought crime, evil organizations. And it lasted for a couple of years. And it was popular enough that Stan Lee took notice.
Excelsior!
Like back in '78, and him and Toei, who made the show, decided to release a Spider-Man show in Japan. And the Spider-Man show, other than the name, had absolutely nothing to do with the character. He was, it wasn't Peter Parker. It was a Japanese guy, and he controlled the very first Sentai robot, Leopard. Which funny enough, showed up in Spider-Verse in the comic books.
Yeah,
recently.
which was a giant Spider-Man robot.
Right. So that has nothing to do with Sentai. So Marvel got...
Well, that was very interesting, nevertheless.
No, it is. There's a lot of interesting things to this that I didn't know had a lot of ties to my childhood, and I'll get to that here in a few minutes. So the series kept going. Every year they would change the characters up. They would change the Megas.
Rangers had a theme to them.
Yeah, like there were Jock, who had like, the Queen of Hearts, like hearts.
Ace,
Yeah,
Right.
they were very
Spades.
different, like Jetman and all that stuff. Just different themes. You're right. Space, dinosaurs, obviously.
The cards were the ones that I
trains.
grew up with. Well, so
Okay, so back in Peru, we got a couple of these shows before they came to America. I believe it was Live Man or something like that. Because I grew up watching Ultra 7 and Ultraman. But it was dubbed into Spanish, right? I knew it was a Japanese show, but it was dubbed into Spanish. When this was brought over, and how all this started was in 1992, Haim Saban took a trip to Japan. It was a business trip. The guy did like a lot of composing music for our shows, Mysterious Cities of Gold, shows that we grew up with in the late 80s. So when he went to Japan, he saw an episode of Jetman, which was one of these Sentai series. That was back in 1991. So he was like, that's pretty cool. These guys are, transforming into spandex characters and fighting evil things. So what he decided to do was bring it over to America, but it wasn't Jetman. It turned out to be Zio Ranger, which was what we know as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They were dinosaur themed. So he brought that over to America, and he brought it over in a kind of unique way, and
Kind of unique.
as in, holy crap, I can make this really cheap. Hire a bunch of teenage actors, right?
Yep, sure.
Hire like an American cast.
With attitude.
We don't,
And teenage.
And diversity.
and diversity, and just use the Japanese footage for all the fighting and the robot stuff.
Done.
And
Ship
you
it.
know, honestly, if you think about it, you're like, that is the dumbest idea ever. Nobody is going to watch that because no one's going to believe that those guys, especially the black guy who had 4 fingers, are actually the guys in the suit when they're fighting the monsters, right? Mm-hmm. Well,
And
wrong,
Well,
because
but
everyone was watching. All the kids were watching it, and the minute that and it was huge. We were too old, or we would assume we were too old. When this came out, we were in high school.
Yeah,
At
this-
least we were.
this is
And
a little bit.
Middle school.
I was always into robots, and I couldn't find these, so I had to find them in my later years. And I remember my brothers watching it, and all I could think was like... And I remember watching an episode with them, and I'm like, holy shit, that's a Japanese car. Holy shit, that's a Japanese city. They're using Japanese footage. And I was like, this is never going to work. I was one of those people. And it
Like, you
worked.
didn't pick it up from the opening?
Well, kids didn't care. They
Yeah.
were like, oh my god, a Green Ranger, that's awesome.
Yeah, the same thing-
Anytime
Yeah.
they introduce a different color, it was just... I remember my brothers, that's what they would talk about when they were younger. And everybody at school was talking about it.
Same thing with me. Like I said, I didn't watch it a lot, but I did watch it with my younger brother, and I was intrigued by the fights. Like, it was actually cool, like Kung Fu Fix, and I never picked up that it was all Japanese footage with just, like, a couple of things of Amy Jo Johnson looking all fine. I didn't never pick that up until much later. It's like,
Well, it blew up so much that in 1995, the studio decided to make their own live-action movie.
That's right.
Use original footage, use, CG for the Megazords.
New costumes.
Well, yeah, glossy little
Modified
costumes.
costumes,
Modified
yeah.
Hollywood-like costumes. Now, the interesting thing that when Power Rangers came out here, in Japan, like I said, except for the first season of the Sentai, the Go Ranger Sentai, they changed the way the
Themes.
characters looked, right?
Yeah.
They didn't do that here because they were afraid people were not going to watch the show. They were afraid that if kids didn't see Tommy or Jason or Amy, I'm sorry, Kimberly, or these Megazords, they were like, what happened to the Power Rangers, right?
that's true.
So they started testing the waters because they ran out of footage. Right? You can only have so
Yeah.
much footage, and before 40 episodes become, oh man, we're running out of monsters, and we don't have any more Japanese footage. So we can either make our own stuff, which it's ridiculous. It's gonna make money.
Spend money
It's gonna
on
take a
that.
lot of money. Or we can borrow from another season, which is what they did a little bit with the White Ranger. The White Ranger was from a series called Die Ranger, which was the follow-up to Zia Ranger. And it was interesting how so the White Ranger and the White Tiger Zord were from that series, but they kept that Megazord, right, for this series. So it was kind of interesting how they matched up the footage until they were like, this is a lot, this is difficult. We can't keep doing this. So they tested the waters again with a 10-episode miniseries called The Alien Rangers. The Alien Rangers borrowed footage from a ninja theme Sentai. And it was where the teenagers with attitudes got transformed into little kids. So it was a whole new cast. Same characters, but just different actors. Whole new outfits. And then people still watch. The ratings did not drop. So they were like, holy shit, we got this. Next season, we're going to change up the costumes. And they did. And that started they had introduced Megazords, like the Thunder Megazord and all that stuff from other series. But then Zeo started, and the Zeo, they got new costumes. They borrowed the actual Sentai costumes, and they got the Megazords. So it was easy to make.
Very nice. This reminds me of Robotech.
There was a voice actor in Robotech. His name was Tony Oliver. Tony Oliver is a well-known anime voice actor. He still does voices. He was the voice of Rick Hunter in Robotech.
Okay.
You're right.
You know where I'm going with
Robotech
this, yes.
took 3 anime and made it into one. Now,
And I had no idea when I was a kid. No idea.
No, none of us did. People really hate Carl Macek for that, but I think this will be another episode. But I think it was a wonderful thing that happened because there wouldn't be a lot of things. If obviously, Power Rangers would have been one of them. So he took his experience from that and produced this show. And Tony Oliver, actually, the Green Ranger's character is named after him. His name is Tommy Oliver. Together with Haim Saban's money, they produced this show. So fast forward years, we have season after season after season of this show. Saban eventually ended up selling it to another company. Disney owned it for a while, brought back, Tommy Oliver as an older Black Ranger. And then eventually
And they had like
Nickelodeon.
crossovers between the different seasons after a while.
Yeah,
didn't they? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
and that was always a trend in Japan with the Sentai, is that they have crossovers with the previous, like, I guess predecessors or whatever they are of the Sentai Power, and they had a crossover with the Ninja Turtles, the space.
That seems a little weird.
Power Rangers in Space had a crossover with the live-action Ninja Turtle show, which was a short-lived show. So there are some versions of. I'm glad you put it.
Watch where you aim that thing, please.
So there's a reason why some of these don't come to America. 'Cause this is the Tokyo, the train Sentai, and obviously there's a lot of things that should not come to Americans. This is ridiculous. So for the 35th anniversary of Sentai, Japan decided to do something really cool. They had the series called Go Kaiger, and Go Kaiger, they took the footage of that, of course, and they used it for Super Mega Force or whatever. These guys can take the power of any past Sentai character and morph into them.
Oh, yeah.
And fight with their powers and stuff. Like, there's really cool footage, man, like, of, or cool episodes of the Red Ranger when he morphs into every Red Ranger from the past 35 years.
Okay, that's pretty
and there was a crossover with, like, all the Sentai characters, including, they brought back some of the original cast members from Gold Ranger and Jock, the famous guy that screams Big One.
Clips of this because they had them all like in different sections, like all
and they all fought the
together
bad
to
guys
fight.
and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. I mean, for a huge show like that, it was really cool. So, unfortunately, here in America, they kind of cut the budget and brought back like 5 characters from the past, and it was really, really bad. But yeah, it's still going strong. Bandai is now co-producing the latest season of Sentai with Toei. They're doing it together, so they're definitely going to bring. I think it's a space theme. It's the 40th anniversary over there, or 41st. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool history behind this, and there's a movie coming out soon. And Kyle Higgins is writing the comic book at Boom, and it's really good. It's a really fun book. So
I'm going to talk about the movies in a second, but I want to ask you. I've been looking at this toy right here, this Mega Ranger here. What is this thing called?
The Megazord?
The Megazord. I've been looking at this Megazord. And it looks just like my old Voltron, like, lines coming together. Now, we had talked about how, like, Robotech is 3 things together. The original Voltron is also an agglomeration, a bunch of these things. Amalgamation of some other animes. Beast Mode Go Lion, I think. So,
keep on.
Okay.
What's your question?
So my question is time frame. When did Go Lion in Japan release versus this stuff releasing? Because that looks like copyright infringement to me.
I think that we Go Lion was 81.
81, yeah. And then
the car robots, the
Ruger, something along those lines. That was 82.
Vehicle team, T2.
Okay.
So that was actually pretty close. That was also an American/Japanese thing, but so for the first couple seasons, like the Go Ranger and Jakku did not have giant robots. Like they didn't fight inside giant. That didn't start until Battle Fever J, which that was the Stan Lee kind of era where Marvel kind of I seriously doubt they had any influence on that. But that was the very first robot, and that was 80. So that predates it by a year. Very close though. So.
Interesting.
But you're right. It's very similar, where 5 lions combined into one giant robot. So yeah, they have a movie coming out.
Did you see?
Looks absolutely nothing like. I saw the first trailer and I'm like, it reminded me of Chronicle or like a made-for-MTV movie, maybe.
It reminds me of my response to the Michael Bay Transformers trailers. No, really. I mean, it's
but the Power Rangers have always
of,
been about the humans, whereas the Transformer trailers, they focus on the humans, less on the robots.
Well, less in that sense, but more of in the sense of we're taking this concept and we are completely redesigning it for Hollywood.
Well, you do remember
much less so than the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, which was just an extension of the TV series.
Yeah, and fits into the timeline,
right.
I think, except for the Turbo movie.
You mean it's more like, I'm taking your childhood and bending it back.
Well, you mean like the Michael Bay Transformer movie?
Yes.
That's what you meant. Okay.
Well, do you recall there was an unofficial Power Rangers
fan-made trailer. Yeah, that looked excellent.
That was like, you know, really kind of like language and violent and,
Well,
and awesome. So that thing came out and everyone loved this. I love this.
that.
I'm not, like, again, like I have a passing interest in Power Rangers, and I watched that thing like 30 times. It was great. And then now we have an actual movie that seems to be like dark and angsty.
Well, that's the difference too. The Sentai stuff was dark, like how the original character Rita Repulsa. That's not what she was named. I think.
Wait.
Like
Rita Repulsa.
Dima Namika or whatever her Japanese character's name was. Like they sacrifice a bus full of kids to bring her back from the dead. That's the Japanese footage. Like, you know, the
use that
American
footage in
ones are a
America.
lot
Yeah, they just
different.
had that crying
like,
baby.
like the Green Ranger died. You guys remember? Probably not. But the Red Ranger in America had the gold armor for a while.
Yeah.
Well, they were brothers in the Japanese series. When the Green Ranger died, he gave him his armor, and the guy kept it. So in the American footage, it was like, "Oh, Tommy, let me borrow the armor. That's awesome. Let's go fight Rita." So
They're all parachuted out. They're okay.
I hope you guys had a more phenomenal time watching that episode. Please like, subscribe, don't forget to comment down below, and hopefully you learned a few things between Sentai and Power Rangers and how it all kind of came to be. And let's see what happens with the movie.
Van Halen soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, Van Halen specifically wrote the soundtrack for the Mighty Morphin Power. False, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
We don't give false information here. This is so stupid. You're having too much fun. I don't like the internet laughing at us.